welcome back to the Artie Lange Show. My next guest is a very funny lady, very pretty. She must have been 14 when she was on Last Comic Standing with Mike Bichetti. I don't understand it.
I wish.
But Mike looks like her grandfather, and I look like her uncle. But she's doing well. She'll be at Helium in Portland, Oregon in a couple of weeks, so check her out there. The Heliums are all good clubs. Please welcome Carmen Lynch. What's up, Carmen?
Thank you, and I'm so happy to be here. Thanks so much. Thanks for inviting
Try to
me.
contain yourself. Now, you say you grew up in Virginia. Where'd you go to high school?
Robinson. Do you know Virginia?
Virginia. Well, just from doing gigs, I've done Richmond. I did University of Virginia.
Do you know Fairfax, Virginia?
Yes, I know of it, yeah.
Right there.
Okay. Now, how far is that from Richmond?
Like an hour, I
Okay.
think.
And that's where you went to high school.
That's where I went to high school, but I went to college near Richmond in Williamsburg.
It's a fun town, a fun area to go to college, yeah.
Yeah.
And what did you study in college?
Psychology.
That's a good thing for a comic, though.
Yeah,
In a way, you got to look at the world that way, you know.
I had like maybe 6 different majors before I settled on that.
Yeah.
I was pre-med for a year.
Oh, you were?
And then I was like, what am I doing? This is too hard.
My fiance tried pre-med. I saw her doing, I couldn't believe it. The people who become doctors, thank God they're still around, because just getting through that, just the book stuff before you can go put a Band-Aid on somebody.
Well, you're in high school and you think everything's easy. Like I got really good grades and
You were smart enough to get by, just
Yeah.
without hitting the books, probably.
And then chemistry in college was like, no way, I couldn't even get through that.
Well, that's why some people they just born that way. It doesn't mean you're dumb that you can't be a doctor. It means you're just not built that way. You know, it's you got to also be willing to sacrifice a long period of time in your life.
Yeah, I don't think you should go to the best schools. I think you should go to an average school and have a life. Because I tried to get into the best school in Virginia, and it was UVA or William and Mary, and I got into William and Mary. But then I had to study all the time.
It's
and
no fun.
Everyone there is so smart. They don't even study. They just drink, and they still get good grades.
So they're the people that can get away with that.
Yeah, like photographic memories and stuff.
But now you said, so at one point you said to yourself, what am I smart enough to be? Clearly a comedian.
I mean, I started kind of later. Like I had real jobs for a while. I worked at Goldman Sachs. I was just like
You worked at Goldman Sachs?
Not as a banker, but as like PowerPoint. I was a presentations analyst.
But was your goal to get to the top of that company at some point, or towards the top, or you just were doing it as a gig?
No, for a while it was, but I don't think it was ever something I wanted to do. I think I was supposed to do that. Like I grew up with very conservative parents, and I think that's why I'm going to be a doctor. And
you meet a lot of disappointing people, though, in the world in general, and I'm sure Goldman Sachs, you know, you meet people like, oh, my God, these people are gross. Right? I mean, show business, too, but, I mean, you know.
Yeah, but eventually I think you're just like, I can't do this anymore. Like, live in a cubicle, and then luckily...
Not if you have it in you to be a comic. Yeah, you probably can't do that.
I never even knew I was going to be a comic. I moved up here to pursue that business side and try acting, and that wasn't working.
So what makes you start comedy? It's a ballsy thing to do, you know? I mean,
I never followed it, but then I saw comedy clubs in the city, and I went to see one with friends, and I was like, oh my God, these people are so funny.
Yeah.
They must have been born this way.
What clubs did you go to?
The very first one, I don't even remember, but I think it was New York Comedy Club because I used to live a block away, so I'm sure it was that one.
Was it the one on 49th Street or the one on 24th?
24th, yeah. And then I always learned, my mom always said, when you want to do something, take a class. Like that was just her, like, just go take a class.
Right.
So I was like, oh, I'll take a stand-up class. Maybe.
You remember who taught you?
Yeah, he passed away.
Oh, God.
He was really...
Sorry, I'll get it.
Mike Irwin.
Mike Irwin?
Oh,
sure,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was great.
Sweet person, really funny.
Yeah,
What did
really.
he die of? Were you on Last Comic
Like
Standing?
mouth cancer.
No, he was such a good, really good
He
guy.
had mouth cancer?
Yeah, he had like stage 4, like suddenly, and then and his whole mouth got removed or something.
He was such a good
Like
person.
Roger Ebert. That kind of like Roger Ebert's mouth, like at the
I
end?
guess, yeah.
Oh, God, yeah, that hurts comedy. That's disconcerting. So was that like a
That
harrowing
was my
experience?
Well, actually, no. My first class was a 3-day learning annex class
About comedy.
about comedy, but the guy, I can't even remember his name. He had an addiction to cocaine.
Right.
So he'd be like, "Don't do this." He's like, and we're like, "What about the jokes?" And he's like, "I'm just here to tell you, don't do coke."
It's just an AA meeting or a comedy class? Wait, a comic addicted to cocaine. Let me think. It'll come to me.
I just remembered his name. That's so weird. I don't know. Can I say it?
Well, he was open about it, right?
Yeah.
Who is it?
Tim Davis.
Oh, yes, I know him.
Yeah.
And he was really cool.
The guy who managed Stand Up New York.
I guess. Yeah.
Real
You know
tall
what?
guy.
That was our graduation class. So
Real
yes.
real tall
yeah.
guy?
Yeah, big guy.
Now, how long before you figured out he also had an addiction to ripping off young people for a comedy class?
3 days. Learning.
Was there
anecdotes.
anything in the guy? I remember Tim. Tim used to give me spots at Stand Up New York, and you're like, you know, and no offense, I wasn't trying to be like a big shot, but I had been on a sitcom for a couple of years, and I was making all right money, you know, and he calls me up, he goes, "Oh, do you want MC tonight?" It was like a Tuesday. And I go, "No," and he goes, $60. And I go, "Tim, you're gonna make me say this? Am I gonna be the jerk here? I mean, I'm on a sitcom now. You gotta come harder than $60. That's not gonna pay for parking."
And so many other comedians would have been like, yeah, of course.
Well, I mean, I would have been 2
Yeah.
years before, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm like, well, not now. I mean, how desperate do you think I am? If you would have said Coke, you know, that's a different story. Now, did you learn anything in comedy class that you think you took away that was helpful?
I learned a lot in Mike's class because it was a real class, but it was more like structure. And honestly, I just didn't want to go into open mics by myself. And when you start a class, you have like, it's like freshman year in
Partners.
college. You have
Yeah.
like a group of 20 and you're all going together.
Now, so that's how you started with an open mic with people from your class.
People from my class.
What do they teach? Well, like, give me structure. Like, well, I didn't even know what they teach in a comedy class.
Like the 3 C's of comedy.
What are they?
Character. I can't believe I remember this. Character, conflict, and confidence.
It's cocaine.
Yeah.
Cocaine is the third. No, it's cocaine, and
More. Okay.
just put a C in front of heroin. No, yeah. Did you feel ripped off at all?
You know what? I didn't because I knew nothing. Like all of my friends in comedy are like, oh, I used to listen to, you know, so-and-so's album when I was 12. And I used to do, and I never,
you never
did
did that.
any
Yeah,
of
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Like we never stayed up. My parents wouldn't let us watch The Tonight Show and all that. So to
Is
me,
that true? Why were they strict? Very
They were pretty
conservative?
strict, yeah.
The Tonight Show, really?
Well, they didn't even watch it. Like when I got Letterman, my dad was like, "Oh, we'll start watching it so we can see what you're gonna do." And I'm like, "You can't. I'm the next comedian on the show."
Were they upset with you for doing a show like that? Were they upset with you for
No.
going into show business?
They were pretty not upset, but just scared, really scared.
Well, listen, look at their point of view. You're like pre-med first, Goldman Sachs, and then Tim Davis is teaching you. Listen, Mr. Lynch, it's Tim. Yeah, well, everything's fine. I know it didn't work out, but she'll be fine. She's with me now.
I mean, it was pretty bad. Even when I was a psych major, like for years after comedy, where they were like, "We'll pay for your grad school for psychology," and I'm like, "I don't want to be in psychology."
But how fast were you hooked, though, on stand-up? 'Cause
Immediately.
You got laughs. Did it take long to get laughs, to get good on stage?
I mean, I think it took long to write jokes that I liked, but it didn't. Like for Tim Davis's class, I was on Stand Up New York for 2 minutes.
Right.
Because I told him, I said, I don't want to go on stage. I just want to learn how to write well because I like to write.
That's half of it, sure. I mean, you got to know how to write. Yeah.
And then I remember he tapped me on the shoulder. It was like Sunday at 5, and there were 10 people. And he's like, just get up there and try it. And I did 2 minutes, and I was like, this is the best thing I've ever done.
Who was in the crowd?
Like maybe people the other people in the class
And you got
brought.
laughs with them?
Like
That's a hard
chuckles.
crowd. That's
I
a
mean,
hard crowd.
Yeah, but But
My
I mean,
first time bomb, I'm not afraid to admit, I was 19, I bombed miserably.
But you can't in 2 minutes. They're probably like pity laughs, like this is a class. And I was like, I'm so tall, and like when you're tall, you just come up with dumb tall jokes.
We got to take a break, but is Mike disturbing you? I see you looking at him a little bit.
Who? Mike?
Mike, yeah.
No, I'm just trying to make eye contact with
Oh,
everybody.
thank you. Now, Carmen, you were funny since the
You don't
first
have to,
time.
You
You're
don't
very
have to make
funny.
eye contact.
Oh,
With
she has a
him, I
great,
don't.
Or me.
great stage presence.
Who should I
We're like
look
we're like wild animals. Don't look directly.
You don't have to.
But every once in a while, I feel like you're making a point, and Mike goes like this.
I'm just listening. It's fun hearing Carmen talk.
Man, this was a mistake putting you here. I'm sorry. Carmen, once again, we're going to take a break. You're going to be at Helium in Portland, Oregon. And I want to talk more about, because it's fascinating. I mean, you clearly got good at this, and you persevered. It's a good story. It's an American story.
I stopped for a year. I can tell you about that too.
Yeah, we'll
but-
hear about that. Carmen Lynch is here. And again, Helium in Portland, what are the exact dates? Do you know?
2 weekends from this week. I think it's the 14th through the 17th.
Check her out. If you're in Portland, Oregon, we'll be back after these words.
The Artie Lange Show, weeknights on Audience, only on DirecTV.